Hey, Grace College. I'm Chandler.
And I'm Brileigh.
Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. We're going to be talking about staying connected during this really unusual time that we all find ourselves in. Um, and we're going to be talking a little bit about, um, what it means to be connected to others, the importance of remaining connected during this time, and we'll share with you some helpful tips that we found to be helpful in our own uh, friendship and relationships with others. So, Brileigh, any opening thoughts?
I think we should start about this idea of being connected, like what basis we have for it, what is our foundation, why should we be talking about it? Um, and I think that goes, yeah, it takes us to the Bible. So you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that we have this idea in our minds that um, this longing for connection is something that we need to um, stifle or to cover up. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Um, as Brileigh mentioned, the Bible contains lots of great guidance for us, and this subject is no exception.
Mm-hmm.
We know that in the beginning, God created man for connection. We're made in the image of God, and part of that image is that we are relational beings. And actually, the first thing that was declared not good in creation was the fact that man was alone. We primarily, I think, talk about that in terms of marriage in some of our circles, because the very next thing that God does is He makes Adam uh, a helper fit for Him. Um, However, I think that the Adam not being alone speaks more to a fundamental need and desire for connection and relationships with others and with God than it does simply a desire or need for marriage. Um, and contrary to what we, I think, have gotten ourselves wrapped up into, is uh, the simple fact is that our yearning for connection isn't sinful. It was here before the fall, and it will be here long after God comes and redeems all
Yeah.
things. Um, and that's why it's important during this time where we can't be physically together for us to come up with new ways to remain connected to others and to God. Um, yeah, Brileigh, are you finding in your discussions with students and with others, like, how are people processing this idea of what it means to be lonely or on the flip side to be connected?
Yeah, I think in general, I'm hearing a lot of gratitude for technology, like
Mm,
the means to be able to still continue having discussions with people, video calls, being able to stay connected via social media. Um, yeah, I think like it's definitely wearing on people, causing us still to withdraw and still to, yeah, hide behind these masks because it's easier to hide than it is to connect with people sometimes in a really honest and vulnerable way if you're not with them. Um, yeah, so I think I'm hearing a lot of that, hearing that people are still talking, but maybe not being as intentional or deliberative with their conversations or their words. Um, but at the same time, I think like yeah, there's room for like this kind of like superficial talk to, or I not the superficial, but more surfacey kind of talk, to like continue to get to know people and get to
mm,
know like their interests and hobbies and to celebrate in those. So I think that is something I'm seeing too, seeing people like connect over hobbies that maybe you couldn't do it unless you were at home, like fishing or some of your art supplies were at home, stuff like that. So I've been hearing and seeing a lot of that.
it's great. Um, on this idea of loneliness, I think that we can often kind of spin our wheels and get into our own heads. At least I know that I do. This
Mm-hmm.
notion of, the fact that I'm lonely is inherently bad. It's pointing to something that's wrong in me or in how I'm relating to others. It's pointing to some defect or some fault. Um, yeah, what would you say to that idea? Or would you say to someone who says, I'm lonely, so there's something wrong with me.
I think I would ask where that comes from.
Hmm.
I would ask like, why do you believe that? What is kind of behind that? And try to remind them that it's still okay to be alone. Like we
Hmm.
need to still be pouring into ourselves and be checking, yeah, our hearts and our emotions behind that, and seeing whether or not we are, I can't think of the word. Yeah, just like either like too codependent on people, where we're like finding all of our affirmation and joy from someone else, someone else that's trying to fill our cups, while like expectations are continually being missed, and leading to like broken relationships or conflict within relationships, or rather are we like seeking to find ultimate fulfillment, ultimate peace and shalom, and that can only be found through God, in our relationship with Him. He should be the one kind of filling that up, filling up. Yeah, we shouldn't have to look towards other people to fill that, or look towards other things to fill that desire to be, seen or connected. Because truly, if we are believers, the Holy Spirit lives within us, so we're never truly alone. Um, the Holy Spirit is our comforter and our rock. And when we do feel alone, like we can take comfort in the fact that God is with us now.
Hmm.
You and I are apart, but God is still with us, which is so cool. So yeah, I think I would ask like, are you hinging your loneliness on this physical kind of, I'm apart from someone or I'm disconnected from them and they're not giving me what I need, therefore I feel lonely or I feel unseen, unheard, or am I like seeing my relationship with God and seeing like some kind of need to reconcile or repent something with Him? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think those are a lot of really good points. You brought up this idea of codependency, and I think that it's something that, um, yeah, we can see come up in our lives when our relationships with others are disordered in one way or the other. Where, like you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, if we look to one person to fulfill all of our relational needs, and we look to them to be the person who sees us and who knows us, then we can quickly become, um, yeah, codependent. We can find ourselves in this space of not being willing or able to connect well with others or with
Yeah.
God. Um, I think that it's a huge trap that some of us can fall into. So yeah, I think that warning is, um, necessary and timely in this space where we can't physically be together with a lot of people. So I think that for some of us who might find ourselves in close proximity to that person who we tend to go to, it can be even more tempting to simply be looking to that one human. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that being said, um, well, I absolutely agree that we as believers are seen before God and we live our lives before the face of God, and that um, reality and that knowledge should settle deeply into our souls and bring us a great deal of joy and of hope. Um, yeah, I think that we also um, must continue to learn to connect well with others.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think, yeah, I think that God has given us other people as um, co-journeyers, in a sense, on this um, path of life, and um, we not only reflect Him to them, but they reflect God to us. And
Mm-hmm.
so we need to, yeah, that's another reason that we continue to be engaged with friends, family, the church. Um, Yeah, let's pivot and start talking through
Yeah.
some specifics. Let's talk through some of these groups of people in our lives that it might be easy to connect with right now, or it might be difficult to connect with, and how each of us is navigating that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right. So family. Family is the idea of being connected with family can run a huge spectrum for students. Some of our students are at homes that are great and they are loving it, and some are just counting the days until they can get back to campus, until they can be with their friends again in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what can we offer to all of these students? Thoughts on connecting with family?
Well, yeah, like Chandler said, like I've been thinking about this concept of biological family versus like the body of the church, because I am someone who falls into the latter category that Chandler is explaining, the one that doesn't feel like myself when I'm with my biological family. And um, yeah, my family is all kind of scattered right now around the globe. So it's been challenging to connect with them, but I think on some level, like though we aren't close in proximity really ever, the fact that all of us are coming around this like pandemic together has stirred up some more intentionality in us. So I've seen in my family who, yeah, I don't feel like super close with naturally. I've just seen more intentionality on my end and on their end to connect with me, which has been really awesome. And then those people who aren't necessarily my biological family, but those who have welcomed me in, and have let me just, yeah, be Brileigh with them, let me be myself and take off a mask. I have stayed in really good connection with them too. Yeah, the body of the church has been huge in this time. So yeah, I don't know if that answers anything, but I'm finding myself being more intentional with my own family, connecting via WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, or I've been playing words with dad or with friends with my dad a lot, um, which has been fun, and FaceTiming my mom. And that's not a natural inclination for me. Like that is not something that, yeah, I would naturally choose to do so, because it's just hard for me. But yeah, just checking in on them has been good in some ways. So how are
Yeah,
you, yeah, navigating relationships with your family, Chandler?
yeah. I think similarly, I find myself thinking more about my family. I find myself, uh, yeah, more often than I normally am thinking, oh, I should text my mom. Maybe I'll call my dad today. Um, and I think part of that just has to do with the fact that there's less on my plate at the moment. I'm spending a lot more time indoors. Almost all of my time is spent at this house. Um, but yeah, additionally, I think that um, we all have a much greater opportunity right now to connect. So I think that, yeah, in the category of maybe some helpful words to those who, yeah, or for those of you who are in a spot of like, um, family's great, it's awesome to be around, love it. I think that I'd really love to challenge you to continue to build those
Mm-hmm.
connections, continue to get deeper, ask questions that will lead you to learning more about your family members, questions about what they're passionate about, and questions about um, things that they are loving to do right now, questions that show you, okay, who's my brother becoming? What kind of woman is my sister growing into? Um, I think that, yeah, this time can be a great one for us to learn one another, and to, in some cases, learn one another anew. Um, but yeah, I can certainly sympathize with having difficult relationships with some family members. The thought of asking some of those questions uh, is very intimidating. when I think about some of my family members. And so
Mhm.
I am thinking more in terms of baby steps, asking about TV shows and movies that they're watching, and offering to
Yeah.
do a Netflix party together, or just having an easier connection point where, um, maybe our relationship isn't going to fill the room yet, and so maybe it's just more okay. We're talking right now, and it's not about anything significant or super important, but we're having a conversation about a TV show, a movie, the news, or whatever it is. Having some sort of out experience outside ourselves can, I think, sometimes make it easier to connect with others.
Mhm. Yeah, I've also, yeah, those are good points, and I appreciate you bringing both sides into that.
Yeah.
Um, I like your questions about like who's my brother becoming, or what kind of woman is my sister growing into. I think those are questions that I even need to like be checking with my family members. And I think a lot of conversations I've had with students lately, like we are all just kind of feeling like tired of being stuck with the same people day in and day out. Like it's been what, a month since,
Yeah.
I don't even know. Well, I don't know what day it is right now, honestly. Um, but it is okay to like be tired of the people you're spending time with. We are, yeah. I get tired of myself sometimes. Like I can't imagine spending like a whole quarantine with four other people who have seen me grow up and know how to get on my nerves and know like what buttons to push and when. So if you are feeling tired, like with the people you're living with, that's okay. Um, Still like finding time to like get your own rest and time away from them within your self isolation and social distancing. Like it's okay for you to take that time, but continue to, yeah, be intentional with the relationships, even if it is just asking if you can watch a show together or playing a board game or making dinner together, something simple, something small.
Those are great suggestions. Let's widen our circle a bit. Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
those who we're not living with. Let's talk about our friends. What's going through your head right now, Brileigh, as you're thinking about connecting with friends during this time?
Yeah, so a lot. I, yeah, a lot. So I am currently living with some friends in Winona Lake, some people that go to my church. So that has been fun. It's been fun to like continue to get to know them. But I, in general, feel like I'm not being a good friend to people if I'm being honest. Like I feel myself disconnecting and withdrawing, and I feel myself, um, yeah, just becoming more tired and stressed and angry and a lot of these things. And I think because I am used to going physically somewhere to talk to a friend over coffee to express these things, or go to somebody's dorm room and like talk through that, or like someone's house, or like, even like drive off campus and spend some time at a coffee shop. Like I don't have those outlets, so I'm trying to figure out like how do I still be a good friend, and how do I let others continue to get to know me when I feel like I just don't have it in me. Um, and there's this book, Chandler, that you know, called The Cure, that I've been thinking about um, yeah, this idea of like being known. And in it, the author John Lynch writes, "What if there was a place so safe that the worst of me could be known, and I would discover that I would not be loved less, but more in the telling of it?" And I've been thinking about that, and I think I've been letting this mask, this like, yeah, this desire to be physically next to someone, in the same room as someone, been using that as an excuse not to connect because I can't do that. Why should I share? But um, yeah, and I've seen myself needing to extend grace to myself in that and just contribute in ways that I can still, like checking up on people if they're on my mind, or randomly FaceTiming, or um, yeah, just continuing to send silly Snapchats to people. So yeah, in all honesty, I feel like I'm not being a good friend, and I feel pretty disconnected and withdrawn, but still trying to figure out ways to be connected despite that. But what about you? What does friendship look like for you right now?
Yeah, I think similarly, I find myself more often than not thinking about the people that I should be connecting with and that I'm not. The people who I know are in rough spots with their families right now, or who, yeah, are going through one difficult scenario or another. And um, I feel as though my friendship circle needs more of me than I can give at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is a really hard position to be in. Knowing that there is a lot of hurt, there's a lot of yearning for connection with others,
Yeah.
um, and wanting to help, wanting to connect, wanting to offer up whatever it is that I can. And yeah, especially these past few weeks, just not feeling like I've got it in me. Um, this week feels like I'm starting to get some of my relational capacity and mojo back, which I'm excited about. Um, I've got a list of people running through my mind that I'm looking forward to connecting with, but yeah, it has not been easy to care well for my friends or to allow my friends to care well for me in this time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that all of the reasons that we tell ourselves we shouldn't connect are just being amplified during this time. Um, it's all of those fears that run through our minds when we think about reaching out. At least for me, are have doubled down during quarantine, and I find myself, yeah, with more reasons than not to connect. I find myself um, yeah, having the same fear of, be it, what I'm going to offer isn't going to be enough for them, or when I'm thinking in terms of the support that I need, well, they're not going to have enough for me, or, um, and so I think that I'm finding a lot of these in my moments of quiet and a lot more time spent alone during this time. Uh, yeah, I'm finding these messages amplified during a time when I can't be together physically with others,
Mm-hmm.
when it is harder to connect. Um, I'm having to try harder to connect, even when and I think we all are currently in this space where we need it more than we typically do. We need to be
Yeah.
reaching out more. We need to be looking to support one another and looking to get ourselves some support. Um, so yeah, I certainly can relate to the difficulties that this whole situation is uh, putting on some of our friendships.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, like, even you and I, like, we are in the same town.
Hmm.
Um, and like we usually like at least spend one night a week baking or cooking, and having that taken away has been so sad.
Yeah.
Like we can't do the things that we gravitate towards too naturally, which is just hard. But I think some good things to keep in mind as we're thinking about like staying connected to friends is just thinking through like who those people are that we can be ourselves with and our truth selves, and take the mask off. And yeah, I think thinking about those things, and sharing how you're actually doing with somebody lets them know how to care for you well, and creates more vulnerability and more trust between you. And you in turn will learn how to care for them. Um, I think like this idea of like social distancing doesn't mean that we have to like completely withdraw from the world. Like
Mm.
we don't have to continue to isolate ourselves. We can still contribute to friendships by seeking one another out, by doing lots of random things like video chatting or talking on the phone or texting them when you're on their mind, or yeah, writing them a letter or sending them a package, having something delivered from Amazon randomly. Um, yeah, just continuing to check in on people, I think is good, and I think we all want that. So when you look down at your phone and see a text from a friend, um, there's some kind of brain thing happening there where we get happy. I studied biology, and that is definitely the technical term for all of that. Um, but yeah, we all know what it's like to be remembered by someone. Um, so when like a thought about somebody passes through your mind, don't let that just go away. Let them know you're thinking about them.
I think that's great. I think that helps me to feel released from some of the pressure of, um, okay, I don't have to have a 90-minute conversation right now. I can just send the text and say, hey,
Yeah.
thinking about you, how you doing? Um, yeah, which is a great tool to have in the toolkit right now in a time when um, I'm feeling not only this need to connect more, but also, yeah, this reality of I don't have a ton to give right now. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love that, yeah, idea of doing what we can for one another. And
Yeah.
your point of, social distancing doesn't have to mean isolation is huge. Even in this time where we're having to shrink our physical social circles, those who we're with in the same room, I think that, yeah, it's a good reminder to know that we don't have to be doing that same thing with
Mhm.
our relational social circles. We can still be connecting and reaching out, even if it's going to look a little bit differently than it did 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, it can still be good and real and life-giving.
Yeah. Yeah, and friendships don't have to be perfect. Like they're not
Mm,
perfect when we're in person. Things get messy. So extending grace to yourself and extending grace to the other person is, I think, key in this time, especially as we are trying to navigate all of these emotions that are coming up and not knowing really how to reconcile everything that is being thrown at us and all of the unknowns that we're continuing to live in. But it shouldn't be a barrier to connection by any
yeah,
means.
absolutely. Let's talk about
But
church. Let's talk about staying connected with other believers, with
yeah,
our local bodies. What's that looking like for you during this time? What's helpful? Yeah, how you doing this?
yeah. So I love the church that I attend here in the Winona Lake area. It's been a huge blessing to me, and I am moving away from Grace and Winona Lake this summer. And the idea of leaving already was like really sad to me, leaving this church and family of believers. And now, like, not being able to gather with them has just been, yeah, even like more of a pin, and just even more sad. Um, but with that, I think like the times that I'm able to gather with believers and church members has been so sweet. It's been, yeah, it's just been really good to like continue to build me up. And I've stayed in touch with my pastors a little bit, updating them about future plans and getting some really good encouragement. And my church started this Facebook group, which has been so funny because of all the reposting that happens in it, and all the random things. But it's been really encouraging, and the leaders of the church have just been really intentional to continue like this daily encouragement from multiple voices within the church, speaking about what they are learning, how they're viewing Christ right now. Um, and yeah, I am also in a small group where we like haven't had a lot of connection in the past few weeks. I have heard of a lot of small groups meeting like this, like Zoom or Google Meet, and continuing to, yeah, just be involved in one another's lives. Um, and I'm lucky enough to live close to a lot of those people in my group, so I've seen them walking around when the weather is nice, or I have walked a couple of miles, like a few days in a row, and just have seen people like gone to their houses, walked to their houses
Oh,
to say hello 6 feet away and chat on their porch, which has been fun, and to, yeah, catch up with them a little bit. Um, But I am longing for the day that I can gather with believers again. I feel like this time has made church feel a lot more special to me. The ability to gather as believers. I think like it can become really routine to do it Sunday by Sunday by Sunday as we serve and as we worship and as we learn. But I am so ready to be gathered with people and singing with one another. It's just the glories of our Lord. So I'm feeling like both sad and excited. And I'm trying to let these two emotions just live together. Sad because I can't gather with them and then I'm not getting the same kind of community that I otherwise would have, but like also excited for the day that I can do that again. So yeah, that is my blurb about church.
Yeah,
How about you?
I think you've articulated a lot of things that I'm feeling, and I'm sure many of our students are feeling this. Difficulty with not being able to be together. I was feeling it especially acutely on Easter Sunday. I was
Yeah.
sitting right
So
here
weird.
watching Easter Sunday happen, and it was really hard. My church has been streaming over Facebook, and so there's a little comment bar that throughout the service people were putting little comments and encouragements in, which I it's cheesy. It's a Facebook comment, but
Right.
at
Yeah.
the same time, like it was really sweet, and it felt, like this, like you've articulated. Like I had this sense of, man, do I just want us to be together again? Um, and so I honestly I've found that these Sunday services are a real source of pain in my life right now. They're a real source of me uh, seeing, empty rows of chairs
Yeah.
to the side, and just thinking like, where's everyone? Why we're not together? And God, this is really hard, and um, it's really hard to trust that God's at work in times like this when His people can't be together. And we know that one of the primary like ways that God meets us is when we're with other believers. And so
Hmm.
um, I've been really thankful for those moments that I've been able to connect with other believers, be it our I help out with our youth group, and so our small group of high school guys, we've been meeting and via Zoom every Wednesday, and so those moments have become more precious than they were before. Similar to what you were
Yeah.
saying, Brileigh, I find myself um, certainly longing for the time when we're going to be together physically again, but also um, I've got an increased appreciation for the simple fact that we can connect and relate
Hmm.
with one another and hear about what's going on in each other's lives. And but yeah, I am ready for the day when we can be together again physically.
Yeah.
But definitely thankful for all the small moments. My pastor and elders were calling around to different church members. I think that was last week. It was at some point during this time in our history, and um, I just really appreciated the call that I'd gotten from one of my elders. I was in a meeting, so they left a voicemail, but anyway, I just found myself really valuing like, okay, like they're connecting and they're reaching out and they are looking for ways to support us and love us during this time, which um, so those small moments where we've
Yes.
been able to connect have been really precious to me.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like other small moments that we can have with people, like even if they don't know it, it's just like times of prayer. Like we can
Mm.
continue to pray for our church leadership and the missionaries that have been sent out, or we can seek to continue to serve somehow, like you are, staying connected to your youth group. That's awesome. I don't help out in the youth group, so I'm not doing that. But continuing to think through like how I can use my gifts to serve the church still. And a lot of that has been like taken back, and I'm having to rethink, like, what does it mean to be gifted with this, or how can I still like contribute to the children's ministry or the worship team or wherever you're serving. Yeah, I think like continued participation in the live Facebook sermons or recordings or whatever platform your church is using is essential. And doing that like at a consistent Sunday church hour has been really good for me. Like actually getting dressed and sitting on the couch instead of waiting until 5 p.m. to watch the sermon has been good start to my day. But yeah, do you have any other like pointers on how to continue to stay connected to church?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I really appreciate that last comment of anything that we can do to help build in a schedule and a routine. Outside of just approaching each day like, oh, well, when it happens, I'll listen to my church service. Because I find that on those days, I don't. It's the days when, like you're saying, I get up,
Yeah, me too.
I get ready, I make my coffee. Like those are the days when I'm connected, or when I'm engaged, and in a way connected with my body. And um, I think that's great.
Okay, let us talk about grace.
Yes, we would be remiss.
Right. How are you connecting to grace? What are you feeling about our school? Just go.
Yeah, I will say first off, I've been very impressed with our school's leadership.
Yes.
Our students wouldn't know this, but we have continued our monthly staff meetings via Google Hangouts, and
Mhm.
they've been really great.
They're so
Again, to
fun.
have that layer. What's that?
They're so fun.
Yes. And it's really great to have that measure of consistency going throughout this season where there are not a lot of things that are consistent in my life right now.
Yeah.
So appreciated that from Dr. Cadup and the administration who are organizing those, down to Brent and Kirsten who are rocking it with chapel and student involvement.
Seriously.
These chapel services are continuing to get posted, which is
Mhm.
awesome. And student involvement is killing it with all of their events. They have been just impressing me week in and week out with
Yeah.
everything that they are pumping out, from weekly bingos to the Grace College Cribs and JT at 3, and now they've got the house going on, and their Instagram page is just so full all the time, and I love it. What are you seeing?
Yeah.
How are you connecting to Grace or seeing ways to connect with Grace?
Yeah. Really similar things. I have loved like our continued development as professionals through staff meetings. Have loved being able to connect as a residence life team, even through that, and the additional like meetings that we have throughout the week for continued learning as a team, and how we, can use what we're learning now and apply it to future school years. I've I've really enjoyed watching the chapels and talking about those with different RAs and my one-on-ones, and hearing about what they're learning still, and how they are intentionally seeking out that. It's been awesome, and it's really cool to see that student involvement is really intentional about the programs that they're doing. I saw there was a Brooklyn Nine-Nine trivia on
Wait.
Kahoot, and I am so excited to fail that, but I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I'm gonna participate. And the house is an awesome idea. It's a funny name.
And a great logo.
Yeah, I've been very impressed by the way that students and staff alike have been stepping up to provide connection and community for students. Um, I just feel a lot of gratitude towards our school right now. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk about our last category of connection. For some of our students, it might sound a little weird, but let's talk a little bit about being connected with ourselves,
Whoa.
and why that's important right now.
Mm.
Um, what hobbies, what routines, what habits are you trying to maintain or developing to promote your own self-care during this time that you might recommend to the rest of us?
Yeah, I have found routine to be really helpful for me. Like I said earlier, I don't know what day it is. I think it's Tuesday.
But this is getting posted on Wednesday, which doesn't help my confusion.
It doesn't. And yeah, there's just a lot of confusion regularly. Like I feel like I'm consistently running through fog and then running right into a wall because I
Mm,
can't see it because it's foggy. Um, but routine has definitely helped kind of mitigate some of that and brought some sunshine and help bring some clarity and visibility into my field. So things that I have found helpful to connect to myself. I generally am an early to bed, early to rise person. Now, I have been staying up pretty late watching the show on Netflix, but I'm still waking up early. Um,
kudos to
and
you.
thank you. I'm trying. It's so hard to get out of bed, but
Almost.
waking up early, letting myself just kind of ease into the day. I usually start off by opening my blinds, letting the sunshine roll in through the room. I love making pour over coffee.
Mm,
So that is one of the prominent things of my morning. A cup of coffee. I've been rereading the book The Knowledge of the Holy. If you haven't read it, I would definitely recommend it. It has a lot of good truth
okay.
about who our God is, and I feel just a greater sense of gratitude for God in this time that I don't know that I would have felt
Mm,
reading it any other time, really. So yeah, I've been reading through that pretty slowly, journaling when I feel the energy to, and then I just kind of jump into meetings after getting ready for the day. So yeah, slow morning, ease into the day, do a bunch of meetings, and then I've also been trying to be active a few times a week. So whether that means going on a run or I'm doing HIIT workouts, which is killing me, or I've been doing yoga kind of sporadically. So having some kind of outlet has been really good because I've been sitting most of the day just here and sitting in meetings, which is good. I love to be able to continue this, but I can't just sit down all day. So having an outlet to just kind of be active and burn some energy or even find some energy um, through that has been good. And then been doing lots of puzzles. I think I have done 3 puzzles,
nice.
four puzzles.
Wow.
I yeah, and I've been reading a lot for fun. So those and baking. Oh my gosh, I've been doing so much that I didn't even
Yes.
realize. So yeah, those are some of the ways that I'm trying to kind of connect to myself. There are things that I know I love doing, um, things I'm letting myself do and enjoy. Um, yeah, what about you? How are you staying connected, or what routines have you found to be helpful for you?
Um, in the routine category, coffee is definitely a big part of my day. I'm the one who
Mm-hmm.
makes the coffee in the house for my roommate and I. We've got a French press. Not quite there yet with the whole pour over situation, but
I'll teach
uh,
you someday.
yes, you will. Um, but right now, this is working for us. Um, I was a little behind this morning. Didn't get up in time to make the coffee, and she did, and I felt really bad about it. Um, it's probably needless, but anyway. Generally, that's a good part of my day. I've been doing a paint by number, which if our
Yes.
students don't know what those are, they should definitely check them out. I know you did one, and it turned out really
Okay,
great.
but the paint by number that some people might be picturing is like the 1 through 10,
That's true.
very small, like children's paint by numbers. Explain the one that you're doing really
The
quick.
one I'm doing is, I want to say it's about like 3.5 feet uh, tall by like 2 feet wide. And there are 26 colors. and it is very detailed. Like, if I were any older, I would need a magnifying glass to do this thing, because
It's
yeah.
legit.
Hmm. So a lot of fun. Takes a lot of time to get any progress done, but I've got it sitting out on our kitchen counter, and it's pretty fun to walk by it each day and watch it get a little bit more filled in, um, and watch the image kind of come to life. So that's been a big part of my routine. Homework for our class. Brileigh and I are currently in a
Woo.
legal issues class, which is teaching us a lot. Um, but there is plenty of reading to keep me busy, and that's been
Mhm.
a good routine builder. I need to get it done, which helps me to um, want to get it done, and that's ultimately, I think, helping me to kind of stay sane in the midst of all this. So thank you, legal issues. You have helped me. um, but uh, let's talk a little bit about the flip side of this. What
Yeah.
happens if I'm not building my routines? What happens if I'm not trying to take care of myself? Yeah. Why why should I care about taking care of myself in this way?
Yeah, we talked about friendship earlier, right? Like we can be friends to hundreds of other people, but we need to be friends with ourselves too. We need to be kind to ourselves and yeah, extend like the same grace and kindness and love that we would to others to
Mm,
ourselves. I think a lot of us are probably experiencing some level of anxiety or yeah, I don't know. I think like it could be manifesting itself in a lot of different ways. And clinging on to some kind of normalcy and reminding yourself to breathe and allowing yourself just to kind of be and just to be okay with how you are in that moment, I think is essential. Like
mm,
we can't really know how to care for ourselves if we're not connecting to ourselves. Um, which I mean, I have found like earlier I mentioned that I've been withdrawing a lot, or I've been kind of just putting things off, and I've been losing myself a little bit in that.
mm,
I've been forgetting what it means to be Brileigh. So that routine, the certainty each day, the schedule I have has helped me stay grounded and helped me like find some normalcy throughout this really uncertain time where I'm just feeling heightened anxiety. So yeah, I think reminding ourselves to be friends to ourselves and to be kind and being okay with how we're doing that day because it could change day by day, it could change hour by hour. Um, but yeah, I think those are like things to keep in mind as we're talking about developing routine or self care.
I think that is a great model for us to think through. Like, how do I take care of myself? How do I extend kindness to myself? It's in the same way that we would to another person. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but when I'm in spaces where I'm not taking care of myself well, I'm the kind of person I forget to eat. 3 meals go by, and I'm like, oh, I didn't eat today. And I would never forget to feed a guest at my house. Like, there's no way. And so
That's so true.
I think that if we can think in those terms of how can I be kind to myself, in yeah, how might I be kind to someone else, and then using that insight to then turn that on ourselves, I think is um, a great way to think about this. And that's what Jesus told us to do, right? He said, "Love others as you would love yourself." And we get really focused in on loving others, which is great, and we're to love others.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But he roots that in as you would love yourself. And I don't think that that's just Jesus trying to point out, like, you're so quick to love yourself and not others, but rather I think he's saying, like, we've got a really good model for loving people, for taking care of others, and we should take care of ourselves. And if we take care of ourselves, we can take care of others, and vice versa. And it
Yeah.
all kind of goes together. Because there's a real danger here of checking out, shutting down, disconnecting. Um, and that danger is, I think, pretty understated most of the time. I believe there's a C.S. Lewis quote for anything, and there's one for this. Um, in The Four Loves, C.S. Lewis writes, "To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it carefully around with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness, but in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. To love is to be vulnerable." So yeah, in this time of where it's easy to disconnect, I think that we must fight against the temptation to do that. We must fight against the temptation to protect ourselves at all cost. We've got to reach out. We've got to love one another. We have to make
Yeah.
ourselves vulnerable to each other and to God. Um, I see this end of this COVID situation, and I don't know when it's all going to end or what it's going to look like to come back to normal. Um, but whatever it may look like, I think that there are really kind of two ways that this all kind of comes to a close, right? We will either come back together connecting in schools, churches, and coffee shops, and we will be ready to connect with one another, and we will be so excited to see our friends and those who we were just somewhat acquainted with, and we will be so excited to have those little interactions that we took for granted before. And it'll be because we wanted to connect during this time, because we looked for ways to connect, for ways to be creative. Um, and or we will emerge from this time and we will have shut our hearts off, and we will have so effectively disconnected from ourselves and from others that um, the world that we emerge back to will not be better for this situation, will not have been made um, a more loving or more kind place. Uh, and I think it's our hope that um, we would follow the former path, that we would emerge
Yeah.
more connected, more loving, more ready to build a better society for us all. Uh, any closing thoughts as we land this plane?
Don't forget to breathe.
Mm.
Sometimes I forget that breathing is just like one of the most centering things for me. So don't forget to breathe. Don't forget, yeah, to continue to seek out connection with others and yourself. And it's okay to not have the energy to do that every day. But I think finding times where we feel like we can do that are the times where we can continue to build intimacy and vulnerability and trust with friendships. So
Mm-hmm.
those are my thoughts.
I think that's great. It's a great place to leave it. All right, everyone, stay connected this week. Reach out if you need to. Yeah, find someone to love on. Have a good one.